Hollywood. Welcome to La La Land, Tinseltown, the city of angels. So many hopefuls flock to this sunny, beautiful town with dreams of making it big. And boy, is it gorgeous here. Nice beaches, shopping in Beverly Hills, Disneyland. And at any moment, you just know you're bound to run into one of the biggest movie stars in the world. What's not to love?
Everybody comes to Hollywood. They wanna make it in the neighborhood. They like the smell of it in Hollywood. How could it hurt you when it looks so good? Shine your light.
Unfortunately, Hollywood is also a town built on illusions, where often things may not be quite what they seem. For every famous face on a magazine cover, there are countless people who never even make it past the first round of auditions. And for those who aren't lucky enough to get a call back, well, they can often fall through the cracks. Some will resort to drinking, drugs, prostitution. When things get bad enough, they can end up homeless. And it was pretty bad for one couple, Rob and Sarah. They had been living on the streets for so long, they had actually resigned themselves to that existence, drifting from place to place, not even knowing where they would find their next meal. Until one fateful day, when a young woman appeared out of nowhere and changed their lives forever. Who was she? Her name is Crosby. In the 90s, she was a young actress who appeared on hit shows like Malcolm in the Middle and Seventh Heaven. Then she segued into a singing career, even collaborating with big shots like Babyface and the Beach Boys. But even then, she was never really about fame in the spotlight. She always wanted to make a difference. And though she didn't know it at the time, her chance encounter with Rob and Sarah would light the spark for that opportunity. Who could have known that taking two young people experiencing homelessness out for dinner would lead her to found a mission-driven business that would change the world? But before all of that, there was just Caitlin, Rob, and Sarah. An unlikely trio. The young couple just trying to survive life on the streets, Caitlin trying to rise above the trappings of privilege and the pressures of the entertainment industry, and they all came together. And rise above she would. She turned her back on becoming just another pretty face in Hollywood, and instead tried to be the change she wanted to see in the world. And in doing so, Caitlin would create opportunities for hundreds of impoverished people and make a name for herself too along the way. Eventually, seeing that name rise all the way to Oprah's Super Soul 100 list of visionaries and influential leaders. So to say that Caitlin Crosby is an inspiration is an understatement. So we're in for a treat because she's with us today to share it all. Caitlin Crosby, today on the Gratitudeology podcast.
Will you walk through the fire? Would you ride through the storm? Will you walk on a wire? Will you save me if I fall? Will you break through the madness? Set us down where we're safe. I'll be right here waiting till you find me again.
Caitlin Crosby, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to dive in a little bit about your youth, because I think similar to me, we both had parents kind of in the industry and had an element of that growing up.
My mom was a model and an actress. She was on Chips. Who's the blonde on Chips? And my dad still manages actors, was an agent, her modeling agent, introduced them.
And it's only natural, right? You grow up in this world of make-believe that seems so magical. Why wouldn't you want to become a part of it? In her teens, Caitlin was accepted into the theater program at Beverly Hills High School. She eventually landed a lead role in the school's musical production of Shakespeare's As You Like It and continued to play important roles in their other shows.
Because your entire life kind of started in the entertainment industry, did you have a hankering for it early on?
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to always be an actress, like everyone around me was. So I grew up on sets and I grew up doing that. I think my first headshot, I was 2. Definitely grew up auditioning, but my parents were wonderful in the sense of they didn't really want me to grow up in it. They wanted me to wait till I was out of high school, but I was always begging them to do it. But I still would audition here and there and do all the fun little shows, like my dream show, which I got the opportunity to work on, was Seventh Heaven.
And that was just one of the TV shows that Caitlin was able to book. She's been on That 70s Show, Strong Medicine, and many others. For those who grew up in the 90s, I can't stress enough what a big deal those shows were back then.
All these shows that I just love. So, did a little bit of that growing up, which I loved.
When you transitioned to music, what did that look like, that part of your career?
I went to Beverly Hills High School. Babyface, he was kind of putting a girl band together. So, long story short, it was kind of through Kiss FM, and it was during the days of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Destiny's Child. It was everyone's dream. This was in a girl group with Babyface, who put us together for 5 years, and I really learned from him how to write songs, play the guitar, and it was the same sort of thing. A lot of the record label, he was always so great, but a lot of, A&R people would want us to write songs about going to the club and our fake IDs and having affairs with married men. And I was always wanting to write songs about homelessness. And like, no, we don't want to hear songs about homelessness. Just started to learn how to write and play guitar, and the other girls were really good dancers and singers, but I cannot dance, so I was just thankfully had my guitar. But I would always, at the time, I was really into my church youth group, so I was also teaching Sunday school, and the record label people were always like, come on, you have to be more sexy, more sexy, more sexy, and I was wearing like a turtleneck, and I was like, I don't know how to be sexy. So that was an interesting time, but it really was kind of like a college experience in the sense of really learning how to speak up and learn about the whole music industry. And we went to the P. Diddy white parties, a lot of white party P. Diddy experiences.
So did you ever see anything crazy?
I mean, there was definitely, I was very close to a lot of affairs, inappropriate situations with younger girls and married men that we worked with that were in a place of power in our lives. So I saw a lot of that, but none of the things that are in the news right now. But it was very, very close to it for sure.
How did your parents kind of frame that for you, or did they help? Because they obviously experienced that. In fact, from the way you kind of set it up, it was a little bit of the dynamic of how your parents met.
Yeah.
So did your parents frame that up for you or protect you?
No, my parents were so great and they didn't really want me to be doing the music. They wanted me to go back to school, to college, because I started at Loyola LMU, and but then I deferred and was doing the music group, and I don't think they were very happy about that. So I think because they were, very much in the industry, and I was around it my whole life, so nothing really surprised me, and I was such a goody two-shoes that they weren't really worried about me. Right. I was trying to pray for people in the bathroom, and everyone was doing drugs, and I was like trying to take them with me to youth group.
I just had to interrupt Caitlin at this point. Listen, I've known a lot of people in the entertainment industry. I've interviewed many of them, and I've heard the different reasons they get into the business. In this celebrity era, most are fueled by their ambitions. And believe me, no judgments. You do you, right? But Caitlin is different. Plot twist.
I honestly don't like performing. I don't like being in front of a camera. I don't like singing on stage in front of people. But I always wanted to be in the entertainment industry because I saw how these platforms, that people were listening to them when they wanted to make change as far as the issue of homelessness or this or that. And I was always obsessed with the issue of homelessness. But I saw so many people that were quote unquote famous, able to have these platforms to really make change and start nonprofits and start movements. And I think that's what I really loved about it, because I loved talking to the girls that would come to the show after the show and what they were going through in their lives, but I didn't like ever being on stage.
At a certain point, you had done a movie with Brie Larson.
Yeah.
And that kind of started some of like phase 2 of your mission-driven work. Can you tell me about that?
On the movie poster, they kind of cut off our faces and put other bodies on us that weren't ours. So we started a website called Love Your Flaws, all about women's body image issues and kind of changing the narrative from maybe something that you hate about yourself, but turning that on its head. So Love Your Flaws with a Z. So it's like, my chemo fried hair is beautiful. My cankles are the new black. You know, my scar saved my life. All the things. And went around and took thousands of pictures of people holding up signs that said things like that.
Caitlin's concept was so ahead of its time. This was all going down in the early aughts, when we were all still worshiping at the altar of skinny girls in low-rise jeans. Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, and Britney Spears were our gods. And the prevailing thought was anyone less was, well, less. So this was all pretty groundbreaking stuff. She was already encouraging people to define their own beauty, to own their own beauty, to reframe the idea of what we thought were, I'm using air quotes, flaws. Not just to accept them, but to celebrate them as part of who we are.
My first album in 2008 was called Flaws, and every song was kind of about that narrative. A song called Imperfect is the New Perfect, and it was kind of a way to give myself therapy from growing up in Los Angeles my whole life. Then we started having meetings with Dove, the Real Beauty campaign, and they were kind of just starting that, and so there was no social media or anything like that. I was with a camcorder, like a real, like there was no, you know, we didn't have the phone videos or anything like that.
Isn't that crazy?
I edited it together with editing wires on a TV and a camcorder.
And from there, destiny seemed to be leading Caitlin to the next part of her journey.
I left the letter at your door.
So I was on tour, doing music, singing all these songs every night in a different state, and already doing Love Your Flaws, and would go up to people and have them make their signs on a piece of scrap paper or a receipt or even toilet paper, literally anything I could find. I love the guerrilla style creativity of it all, and I liked that everyone's sign was different and one of a kind. So I was in New York, the hotel room key, thought it was cool, put it around my necklace, got compliments on it. One day, actually, the movie that I did with Brie, the other guy in the movie, Ryan Hansen, who's an actor, he and his wife were showing this documentary. Do you remember Invisible Children? It was like the first, Coney 2012 or something, the first viral video ever. That's like their family. And so they were showing an Invisible Children screening at their church on Hollywood Boulevard.
Our stories have been told.
Stories of war.
Stories of innocence.
I was forced to leave my home.
I was a child soldier. I escaped abduction. I am an orphan.
My name is Innocent.
Jacob. Tony. Bonnie. Ronald. Papito.
Lillian.
We are known as invisible children.
But we are no longer children.
And we are no longer invisible.
We now have a legacy to share with you.
Because you haven't forgotten about us.
So I went and I left bawling my eyes out. It was like a scene from a movie. It was raining, I was crying, so impacted by this documentary of everything that was happening in Africa and what was happening to these kids. And I left, walked out the building, and I was crying, and I was like, God, what else can I do to help people? Like, what else can I do? Because it was so intense, and it just made me see that there was so much in the world that people needed to be helping with it. What are they gonna do? And we have so much privilege here, and it feels like from growing up here and seeing so much privilege, it felt so wrong and unjust that no one is doing anything with all of this privilege when there's so much need in the world. Right when I walked out of church on Hollywood Boulevard, I saw this young couple living in a dumpster in a cardboard box, and they were holding up a sign that said ugly, broke, and hungry. And it looked like a Love Your Flaws sign because of the word ugly and the way that it was written, kind of on a dirty old piece of paper with a Sharpie marker, just like everything else was that we made. And I said, why does your sign say that? What's your story? And kind of got their life story like I normally would do. And I ended up, I just fell in love with them. And I was like, you know what? Are you guys hungry? Can I get you some food? And I was like, you know what? Actually, do you want to go to dinner? And I canceled my plans that night. I think I had acting class or something. Canceled my plans, took them to dinner. We walked to Kitchen 24 on Cahuenga, right here, a few blocks away, and had no motive. I wasn't thinking like, I'm gonna start a social enterprise business. It was just about human connection and meeting people where they're at and just loving on people and trying to help, even if it's just buying a meal. And so had dinner. 2 hours into the meal, I said to the girl, Sarah, I like your necklace. And she said, oh, thanks, I like making jewelry. And I had my aha moment. I said, oh, you're the missing link to the Giving Keys. Do you guys want to be my business partners? And they were like, what? Who is this crazy lady? But okay. So went to a locksmith, bought engraving equipment, bought hammers, started paying them to engrave words on the old keys that I would collect from tour. So had them engrave faith, hope, love, let go, fearless, believe, dream, all the words that we all need. Brave. My little boy, his name is Brave, by the way, and my little girl, her name's Love. Very on brand.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so then little by little started making those, and then I would pay them, I would sell them on tour, music tour, with my merch and all my CDs, but then the Giving Keys started selling out more than my CDs. So I was like, okay, well, thank you for coming to my show, buying all these freaking key necklaces, but I knew people were really resonating with the words, so came up with a pay it forward concept, get a word you need, own your word, but then pass it on, pay it forward to someone you feel needs it more than you. Then people started writing me on MySpace at the time. You know, so-and-so is about to commit suicide. I gave them my key. So-and-so has cancer. I gave them my key. So-and-so's going through a divorce. I gave them my key. So made a website so people could write the stories on there. Fast forward to Rob and Sarah saved up enough money. They started staying in a motel, then they got their own apartment. Then fast forward to doing this work for over a decade. We ended up employing over 150 people that were trying to transition out of homelessness to make all of our products.
I'm just like floored with the whole story. Can you tell me a little more about Rob and Sarah's story? How did they become homeless?
Yes. So many people often have assumptions, which I understand for sure, but they were actually raised that way. Rob's parents were also experiencing homelessness, living under a bridge, and Rob was basically raised under a bridge in San Diego. And, you know, everyone's wanting to be respectful and use proper words that aren't offensive, and Rob and Sarah would like to call themselves travelers, which I love.
I've heard that like in the train hopping community, which they literally are. But
yeah, and he was really into that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures. Yeah. I'm like, that's kind of badass.
It looks kind of, I'm not
really
gonna lie, as a free spirit,
Yeah.
or like a girl that grew up, I mean, now I like cosplay as a like vanilla suburban mom, but I really grew up like just wanting to spread my wings. And when I hear that life, I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Fall asleep under the stars, wake up in a different place.
Doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, I get it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did he meet Sarah?
They met on the street, and then they fell in love. They were together for a long time. Then they broke up, but they're back together now, and I'm really excited about it. Rob started working at a restaurant, and then Sarah has been working at the San Diego Zoo.
How great is that?
So they moved back to San Diego, and
that's a wonderful, wonderful story.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they got, you know, probably some pride and job skills from working for you.
For sure.
So how would you go about employing people experiencing homelessness?
So the first few years, it was just me going up to people on the street and kind of trying to almost recreate that special magic with Rob and Sarah. And it was, you know, hit or miss. I feel like I have pretty good discernment from growing up in Los Angeles, where I can see someone and I'm like, this is a safe situation or this is not a safe situation, because there's so much gold and potential in people that are living on the streets that people are passing them by every day and have all these judgments for, and I understand, but sometimes they just need a little support, and once they get that, or if they're connected to the right place, there's so many nonprofits that do a lot of work, but there is a lot of red tape.
Despite that red tape, Caitlin decided to focus right there in her own backyard of California, where, according to a survey done in 2024 by the Public Policy Institute, there are more than 187,000 people experiencing homelessness. And that's 28% of the homeless population in the whole United States.
So I understand why it's even so hard for people to have housing, or to even understand and learn all the steps and get the proper support that they need to. There's just so much red tape. And even one of our employees, that she had relapsed, and we had so much HR, and we had a girl on our team used to work at, I think, United Way, and got her master's in social work. And when one of our girls had relapsed, we couldn't even find her a place to go because every place was full. And then finally, through weeks of calls and favors, the LA Mission gave her a slot in a 1-year program, a 1-year program. And we said, if you graduate this 1-year program, we'll save your job for you. And she did. And she graduated a year later and came back, and she had a job again.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the first few years was definitely trial and error, me going up to more people on the street. Then we started partnering with different transitional homes, and Chrysalis became our main partner, and they still are. So they would kind of screen people that were experiencing homelessness, and I would come and interview them, and our whole team would come and interview them. And we had a 3-month process where, let's say we were paying $20 an hour, let's say whatever LA living wage was at that point, let's just say it's $20 an hour. We would pay the individual $20 an hour, and then Chrysalis $20 an hour. So it would be $40 an hour. And then that would basically help Chrysalis be able to do everything that they do, the professionals, since I didn't know what I was doing. And they were, giving proper, case workers and social workers, and helping them transition, and making sure everything was kosher, and drug testing and all that. And then after 3 months, they would graduate on our full-time payroll, and we would have a whole bell ringing ceremony. Wow. So yeah.
Did they work out of, did you have like a commercial space?
Yeah, we had a huge 8,000 square foot HQ downtown in the Arts District in LA. That's amazing. So the first few years we would do it out of kind of United Way, PATH, People Assisting the Homeless. We would do it at different places. Then we got our own place, and we would do it there.
But it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. As you can imagine, this can be a rough population of folks. And Caitlin definitely had moments where things got hairy.
We had one person that was with us for years, who ended up one time bringing a gun to work, and he was very upset, and that was a very terrifying day. And the cops were called, and then we had security after that, and there was definitely a lot of trauma that came from that work. And I think once I became a mom, a lot of things changed, because before I had kids, I was like diehard, like I want to change the world and help people and all that, which that's still in me, but it's different now that I'm a mom. I'm like, I just want to take care of my kids, and I want to do good work in the world that gives back and helps people, but I don't want to do anything that would, put my children in jeopardy. And so I would bring them to work with me downtown a lot, and I just, after a while, that I didn't love that.
So you've really been like in the trenches with this business, literally, like more than anyone I know who has a business. And, but like most people who start businesses, it's like hard work and hard work and hard work. And you're like, when's this going to pay off? So when did you hit the tipping point? Because I know that a very important someone kind of was a part of that.
It's been 25 years since Oprah's Favorite Things began. Can y'all believe that? It all started as a way for me to share joy and gratitude to the people who matter most.
I think including most people would have their Oprah goal of meeting Oprah or having her seal of approval. And yes, we were lucky enough to have her. We were on Oprah's Favorite Things, and
that's a big deal.
Yeah. And then she had me as one of her Super Soul 100.
And just in case you weren't aware, Oprah's Super Soul 100 honors innovators and visionaries who are helping humanity. And some of the biggest folks have been named on this prestigious list. People like author Janet Mock, Deepak Chopra, activist Shaka Senghor, prima ballerina Misty Copeland, and director Ava DuVernay.
That was such an honor, and meeting her and just even being in the O offices and meeting her whole team and her boyfriend, and just even just seeing him in his cute tracksuit and her in her gorgeous gown, her just eating her deviled egg and just being a normal
deviled
human.
egg, I love that. I love
Yeah,
Oprah.
with a cute boyfriend in
Right.
her office. He's just coming to visit, and he's like, "Oh, lunch," you know, like, and I'm like, you're just humans. You're just normal humans. But this is the Oprah moment, and yeah, it was such a high, for sure. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. I feel like a lot of my friends that have had their highs in other career moments, a lot of people feel the same way. It's like you work and you work so hard and you have that moment that everybody dreams of, and then it happens, and then you're like, okay, now what? Now what? Was that really fulfilling? And it was. I mean, it was everyone's dream, but now it's like, okay, what's the next dream? What's the next step?
And life is lived in between the mountain peaks.
Right.
So I think what's really interesting is like everybody wants the big moments and the big Oprah moments. But what I love about you in so many ways is your connection to your spirituality and the understanding that life is lived in the present. I feel so strongly your connection to the spirit and to gratitude. So what did your experience of life, of running a business, but specifically also of seeing people every day with so little, because I know that when I've encountered people, sometimes the people with the least are the happiest. And sometimes the people with the most, like a lot of people I grew up around, are the most miserable mamma jammas. And it's a really interesting thing to realize when you get older. Mm-hmm. So what does that say about gratitude to you?
Yeah, 100%. I have experienced that my entire life, seeing exactly what you said. When I was younger, going on kind of little mission trips, and people that live in sheds, shacks that have nothing and that are literally just eating rice and beans are infinitely happier than the most famous people in the world with their 10 cars and their multiple homes and their handbags and all the money in the world and all the fans and all their team and all the yes people and all around them, and just seeing so much misery and ways to kind of numb or cope with their success and how hard their life is. Not to be judgy, but I've just seen that, and I get it, and it's all relative, and I get that there are challenges that come with that, 100%. But as far as being grateful and seeing a lightness in the eyes of people that have literally nothing, and maybe it is gratitude. You know, is it that I don't have the answer, but is it that people that are living in huts in Africa, because I know I haven't been to Africa, but a lot of my friends that have multiple people that don't know each other have all said people that they met in Africa have this joy and this happiness that they don't see here in the States, which is interesting. Is it because they practice gratitude more? Is it because they appreciate the small things in life that are really the big things, like their best friend or child or mother or father or family, or one meal that they get that they're so grateful for because they worked so hard for it that they're like, oh, a strawberry. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As opposed to someone else that just gets free, you know, like, have your runner bring me all the fruit. Oh, my runner's wrong. It wasn't my order. You know what I mean? And so but you're not appreciating all this free, fancy food and gifts that you get because you just get it all the time.
Well, I think that's the power of bringing it back to one word. Mm-hmm. What I find is that people can be told you should just be more grateful all day long. And I think that's a really shitty piece of advice, to be perfectly frank, because it's like, thanks, Susan. I would if I could. Like, I know I would be happier if I was more grateful, but how?
Yeah. Right.
And bringing it down to, well, I think that, you know, prayer is talking to God and meditation is just listening. Meditation for me, like oftentimes I'll chant a mantra or I will bring it down to one word. Yeah. When I'm running to me is moving meditation, and I'll often focus on one word. And the power of one word and finding intention and context is so powerful. Yeah. And I wonder if that's what's resonated through the Giving Keys.
Yeah, I think also the power of words is so important. And I think sometimes what makes businesses work, or movements, or whatever it is, podcasts, is when the person, the founder, what they're selling matters to them because they need it, because consumers can smell when it's all a bunch of kind of manipulative BS or like some shtick to try and get something. So I think I need these words. I know how much I need these words because my default is negativity, for sure. My default is like, woe is me, victim mentality, blah, 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 not cute.
But human.
Yeah, human. That's definitely, like, if I'm not being intentional, that's definitely where I'll go. But I have to force myself to do my gratitude list. As simple as it seems, and it works. It really works. And meditating on these words. Like, when I wear abundance, and when you wear your new, what I just gave you, the strength and the love, it's like, meditating on those words, owning them, declaring them. I just made a post on our Giving Keys today of one of our products that says, good things are coming my way. And I posted, declare it, say it, and believe it. Wear it, declare it, believe it. It's like there is power in standing in that energy of these words. Even yesterday, I took my little girl to a jujitsu kind of girl empowerment thing, and she's only 5, but kind of teaching her to stand up for herself. And the teacher, you should have her on your podcast, she's amazing, Cecilina Gracie from the legendary Gracie Jiu-Jitsu family. She teaches everybody the posture of a champion. This is how you stand, and you project your voice, and you stand like this, and even if you don't feel like a champion, even if you just lost, it's like how you're standing. So it's like how you're standing, your posture, the words that you're saying, and the script that's going on back here, which you have to train yourself. You can't just, if I just let these negative words and thoughts rule, they'll rule. But I need to say, no, I'm going to think these thoughts intentionally, even though I kind of don't want to, Yeah. But it's really the only way. It's the only way.
Well, that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's just because it's a practice.
Yeah.
It's not one and done. It's a practice, and that's the whole point of this podcast,
Right.
so people can hear how other people overcame things, and
Yep.
people can remember that there's people out there that are a lot less fortunate than them. So whatever you're going through, it could probably be worse.
Yes.
And you should probably appreciate what you have,
Yes.
even if it's just the breath in your lungs, right?
Yes, even if it's a breath, or even if it's a smoothie that you're making. Like, homework assignment to everyone who's watching, and ourselves, to me, to you, to everybody, even if it's just your water that you're drinking, a smoothie, a piece of fruit, a quesadilla, anything you're eating today, just take a moment and be like, wow, there is someone right now in another country, probably around the block from your house, that is so hungry and is like having to, who knows what they have gone through. And if they got to have one bite, and just like how much they would be like salivating, like it means so much to them. And we just, just rush and don't appreciate. Let's just appreciate a meal today, and water, because so many people don't have water, and we forget that. The theme of gratitude, let's just all think about that today.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So who would have guessed that the girl who could have been a bona fide Hollywood star or a pop princess would choose instead to turn her back on the limelight and dedicate herself to helping others, by helping us reclaim our own sense of beauty, by gifting love and memories and kindness through the Giving Keys, and by providing a helping hand to the homeless who often live each day with very little hope. Caitlin changed the lives of over 150 people experiencing homelessness by giving them a job working in her factory. And though the model has changed a bit post-COVID, it now includes donations to homeless-focused charities instead of hiring unhoused workers directly. The people who engraved those words initially, that mean so much once hanging around our necks, will always be the DNA of this inspirational brand. In the City of Angels, Caitlin is an angel through and through. Caitlin, we're grateful for you and all you do. You can find out more about Caitlin by following her on Instagram at Caitlin Crosby, and you can shop The Giving Keys by visiting thegivingkeys.com. That's all for today. Remember, if you like what you heard, if it impacted you in any way, and if you think it's a message other people in your life might like to hear, I'd be so grateful if you'd give me 5 stars, leave a quick little comment. Those things really help. And share this podcast with your friends, either on social media or just word of mouth. I'm on a mission for us all to help each other focus on expanding our attention towards what's good in the world rather than focusing on what's bad, one person at a time. If we all did that, even to our own little sphere of influence, the world has the potential to be a much more radically awesome place. Stick with me, friends. I've got your back. We're in this together, and it's a great day to see the greatness in the day. See you next time. The Gratitudeology podcast is written, executive produced, and hosted by me, Jamie Hess. Sound design and studio production by Gotham Production Studios. Our theme song is Maze by Hills, sung by Nadia Ali. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Gratitudeology.
Will you walk through the fire? Would you ride through the storm? Will you walk on a wire? Will you save me if I fall? Will you break through the madness? Set us down where we're safe. I'll be right